"And this is the beautiful view from the master bedroom that I was telling you about," Mrs. Fairclough said, her eyes taking in the sight of the countryside beyond. She gave a dreamy sigh. "Isn't it stunning?" Ted smiled and nodded, not wanting to reveal that he had already seen it. His wife, Janice, also remained silent. "The house is worth purchasing just for the view alone. Imagine waking up to this every morning." Mrs. Fairclough looked back at her clients with a smile that told them they could both be content living here. "Anyway, let's continue with the tour. I do get carried away looking out that window, and I will miss it once the house is sold." She walked out onto the landing, the sound of her stiletto heels on the wooden floorboards echoing throughout the empty house. As they walked, Janice looked at the old framed photos that still hung from the walls. Suddenly she stopped. "Oh, look, honey! There's that woman from this morning. Mrs. Dashwood, wasn't it?" Ted stopped and peered at the old black and white photo of Mrs. Dashwood standing on the porch out front. He smiled. "Oh, yes, so it is." Miss Fairclough came back to them and peered at the photo. "You know Mrs. Dashwood?" she asked, a frown creasing her forehead. Ted nodded. "We met this morning. I know it was cheeky of us, but we were in the area and stopped by to take a look at the property's gardens. Mrs. Dashwood opened the front door and invited us in. I did protest, telling her we had an appointment this afternoon, but she took no for an answer and showed us around." He smiled and looked back at the photo. "She was a lovely old lady." "She showed you around?" Janice nodded. "Yes, she told us some lovely stories about this place. I practically fell in love with the house there and then. Is she the previous owner?" Mrs. Fairclough didn't know whether to nod or laugh. "She is a previous owner, yes, but I don't understand. She couldn't have shown you around. Mrs. Dashwood has been dead for 13 years. The silence that followed held a terrifying chill.